Hello, I'm Karl Rito, student of TRIMEX colleges, and today I'm going to present to you a controversy of the past, which is the where and when did the cry of rebellion happen in the Philippines? Because sources of the past seems to have a conflict to the other sources, so it is resulting a confusion to where and when did the cry really happen. I will explain to you bits and pieces so that you will be able to understand or relate with me, and so that we can come up with a clear understanding on what really happened from the cry of rebellion here in the Philippines. So, the outline of what we are going to talk about today, first of all, is what is the cry of rebellion? O ano nga ba ang cry of rebellion? Then, what happened of the cry of rebellion, dates and places, findings, and lastly is what is my own stand. So, let's now go on to my presentation. Cry of Rebellion. Cry of Rebellion can also be referred as El Grito de Rebelión. Marks the start of the revolutionary events that swept the Spanish colonies in the late 19th century. This happens on August 1896, northeast of Manila. The cry of rebellion, according daw sa mga first journalists, can be referred to as El Grito de Rebelión, ay naging simula daw ng pag-aksyon ng Filipino laban sa mga Espanyol, at naging dahilan din ito ng pagkakatuklas ng katipunan na dahil na rin sa mga members nito na hindi na natiis at sinabi sa kanilang mga kamag-anak, mga tao sa paligid nila, na kinalaunan kumalat sa 8 distrito including Manila, Bulacan, Cavite, Pampanga, Tarlac, Laguna, Batangas, and Nueva Ecija, which were eventually represented by the 8 rays of the sun in the present Filipino flag. At doon na nga nagsimula ang katipunan at ito nga ay nangyari sa taong 1896. Originally, the term cry referred to the first skirmish between the Katipuneros and the civil guards. By this, we can say na hindi ito yung cry na sa Tagalog na umiyak sila noon. Ang cry na tinutukoy dito ay yung pagtawag sa rebellion or call of rebellion.
Ang ating katapatan sa Katipunan!
Prominent Filipino historian Teodoro Agoncillo emphasizes the event when Bonifacio tore the cedula or tax receipt before the Katipuneros who also did the same. So I assume that we have watched a movie about this scenario na pinunit ni Andres Bonifacio yung cedula o yung onion ng tax receipt. So by saying empowering words, the Katipuneros, they all did the same na pinunit nila yung cedula. Then according to historian Teodoro Agoncillo, this is the reason of the cry of rebellion. How did it start? August 19, 1896, the Katipunan have been discovered and Gobernador General Ramon Blanco implemented Juez de Cuchillo or the total annihilation of Filipinos on a place where rebellion takes place. So nabuking ang Katipunan noong August 19, 1896. Nagsimula ang hulihan, sinulakay ang mga bahay at ipinatupad ni Gobernador General Ramon Blanco ang Juez de Cuchillo o ang tinatawag din na total annihilation ng mga Indio o Filipino sa isang lugar ng pag-aalsa. Kaya naman mula nang makakapigil pa sa rebellion o yung paghihimagsik ng mga Pilipino noon. So, what happened on the cry of rebellion? So syempre, there's an assembly o pagtitipon na naganap na kinabibilangan ng mga tao mula sa iba't ibang mga lugar. Tapos sa pagtitipon na iyon ay nagtalumpati si Andres Bonifacio to have their unity para magkaisa sila at nangyari nga din ang pag-tearing of cedula o yung tax receipt sa English. Ang cedula noon ay isang napaka-importanteng document ng isang Filipino na laging hinahanap ng government of Spain. Kaya sa pagpunit ng papel na iyon, masasabi natin na buo na talaga ang kanilang mga loob sa paghihimagsik laban sa mga Espanyol.
Oras na po ng pagpupulong. Hindi sumusuko ang ating mga kapanalig. Ang tagumpay sa Cavite ay pagpapakita na kaya natin lupigin ang puwersa ng Espanya.
Ang digmaang ito magdadala sa atin sa mahabang parang ng paghihingalo. Punitin para sa kalayaan! Punitin! Punitin! Punitin!
So, the controversy regarding this event stems from the identification of the date and place where the cry happened. This is the problem or the controversy here, the where and when really did happen the cry of rebellion. Yes, we Filipinos know that tearing of cedula happened, but what we didn't know is the specific date and place of this event. After this slide, nasa sa atin na ang desisyon o tayo na ang magtitimbang kung ano sa mga ipepresent ko ang inyong paniniwalaan, pero sa kasalukuyan ang tinatanggap na petsa ay August 23, 1896 sa Pugad Lawin. Ngunit dahil nga sa napakaraming primary sources mula sa event na ito, nagkaroon ng pagdadalawang isip o conflict sa mga impormasyon na ito. Different dates and places of the cry. A Guardia Civil, Lieutenant Olegario Diaz, identified the cry to have happened in Balintawak on August 25, 1896. Teodoro Calao, a Filipino historian, marks the place to be in Kangkong, Balintawak on the last week of August 1896. These two sources are primary versus secondary, wherein Lieutenant Olegario Diaz is the one who is present on the event, but there is no specific place that he only said it happened on Balintawak at August 25, 1896. While Mr. Teodoro Calao, a Filipino historian which is a secondary source, provides a specific place but not a specific date, that he said it happened in Kangkong, Balintawak on the last week of August 1896. So this is between people na nandoon mismo sa pangyayari at isang Filipino historian. Santiago Alvarez, a Katipunero and son of Mariano Alvarez, leader of the Magdiwang faction in Cavite, put the cry in Bahay Toro in Quezon City on August 24, 1896. So this is also our primary source, which he is a Katipunero and son of Mariano Alvarez. For that, we can say that he is well known in the Katipunan and also he is a leader of Magdiwang faction in Cavite. He indicates that it happened at Quezon City on August 24, 1896. So you can see here that they have different beliefs o paniniwala sa cry of rebellion. Okay, so sino nga ba talaga ang ating paniniwalaan? Who is the most accurate source? So, Pio Valenzuela, known Katipunero and privy to many events concerning the Katipunan, stated that the cry happened in Pugad Lawin on August 23, 1896. It says here that he is also a Katipunero, which we can include in our primary source. And based on my research, he is a trusted ally of Andres Bonifacio, which he indicated that it happened in Pugad Lawin on August 23, 1896. Makikita nyo dito sa slide na to na iba-iba ang mga dates at place na pinangyarihan ng Cry of Rebellion. So tayo na talaga ang magtitimbang kung ano ba talaga sa mga ito ang ating paniniwalaan. Primary source accounts of the cry. So ito naman yung mga pangunahing primary sources na nakalap ko regarding this topic. Guillermo Masangkay, source, entitled Cry of Balintawak, in Gregorio Saide and Sonia Saide, Documentary Sources of Philippine History, Volume 8, page 307 to 309. On August 26, a big meeting was held in Balintawak, at the house of Apolonio Samson, then cabeza of that barrio of Caloocan. Among those who attended, I remember, were Bonifacio, Emilio Jacinto, Aguedo del Rosario, Thomas Remigio, Bricio Pantas, Teodoro Plata, Pio Valenzuela, Enrique Pacheco, and Francisco Carrion. They were all leaders of the Katipunan and composed of the board of directors of the organization. Delegates from Bulacan, Cabanatuan, Cavite, and Morong were also present. At about 9 o'clock in the morning of August 26, the meeting was opened with Andres Bonifacio presiding and Emilio Jacinto acting as secretary. The purpose was to discuss when the uprising was to take place. Teodoro Plata, Bricio Pantas, and Pio Valenzuela were all opposed to starting the revolution too early. Andres Bonifacio, sensing that he would lose the discussion then, left the session hall and talked to the people who were waiting outside for the result of the meeting of the leaders. He told the people that the leaders were arguing against starting the revolution early, and appealed to them in a fiery speech in which he said, You remember the fate of our countrymen who were shot in the Bagong Bayan. Should we return now to the towns? The Spaniards will only shoot us. Our organization has been discovered, and we are all marked men. If we don't start the uprising, the Spaniards will get us anyway. What then do you say? Revolt! The people shouted as one. Bonifacio then asked the people to give a pledge that they were to revolt. He told them that the sign of slavery of the Filipinos were the cedula tax charged each citizen. If it is true that you are ready to revolt, I want to see you destroy your cedulas. It will be a sign that all of us have declared our severance from the Spaniards. P.U. Valenzuela. Source: from the book of Cry of Pugad Lawin, the libro ni Gregorio Zaide and Zonia Zaide. Documentary sources of Philippine History, Volume 8, page 301 to 302. The first place of refuge of Andres Bonifacio, Emilio Jacinto, Procopio Bonifacio, Teodoro Plata, and Aguedo del Rosario, and myself was Balintawak. The first 5 arriving there on August 19, and I on August 20, 1896. The first place where some 500 members of the Katipunan met on August 22, 1896 was the house and yard of Apolonio Samson at Kangkong. Aside from the persons mentioned above, among those who were there were Bricio Pantas, Alejandro Santiago, Ramon Bernardo, Apolonio Samson, and others. Here views were only exchanged and no resolution was debated or adopted. It was at Pugad Lawin, the house, the storehouse, and yard of Juan Ramos, son of Melchor Aquino, where over 1,000 members of the Katipunan met and carried out considerable debate and discussion on August 23, 1896. The discussion was on whether or not the revolution against the Spanish government should be started on August 29, 1896. After the tumultuous meeting, many of those present tore their cedula certificates and shouted, "Long live the Philippines! Long live the Philippines!" Findings: from the eyewitness accounts presented, there is indeed marked disagreement among historical witnesses as to the place and time of the occurrence of the crime. So di talaga sila nagko-connecta, and if you are to base Guillermo Masangkay and P.U. Valenzuela, di rin natin talaga masasabi because of their detailed narration of the events. Using primary and secondary sources, 4 places have been identified: Balintawak, Kangkong, Pugad Lawin, and Bahay Toro, while the dates vary 23, 24, 25, or 26 of August 1896. So overall, there are 4 places involved: Balintawak, Kangkong, Pugad Lawin, and Bahay Toro. Also, there are 4 dates vary, but it all happened on the same month and same year. Valenzuela's account should be read with caution. He once told a Spanish investigator that the crime happened in Balintawak on Wednesday of August 26, 1896. Much later, he wrote in his memoirs of the revolution that it happened at Pugad Lawin on 23 of August 1896. So Valenzuela's account should be read with caution kasi iba-iba nga yung sinasabi ng saksi na ito. Such inconsistencies in accounts should always be seen as a red flag when dealing with primary sources. So we must analyze carefully by Valenzuela's account because it's either he's telling the truth or not. So, according to Guerrero, Encarnacion, and Villegas, all these places are in Balintawak, then part of Caloocan, now in Quezon City. So, sinasabi lang dito na yung Balintawak nung araw is bahagi ng Caloocan, pero ngayon naging bahagi na ito ng Quezon City. Kasi dati, wala pang Quezon City na lugar. Kaya ayon nga kina Guerrero, Encarnacion, at Villegas, lahat ng ito ay nangyari sa Balintawak. Yung mga Bahay Toro, Kangkong, Pugad Lawin, lahat ng ito ay nasasakupan ng Balintawak. As for the dates, Bonifacio and his troops may have been moving from one place to another to avoid being located by the Spanish government. which could explain why there are several accounts of the cry. So this is it. That's explain why there are many dates and places involved here. So the findings here explain why there are many sources that contradicts other historians because of moving one place to another, and they do this because of their own protection, to avoid the Spaniards. And you can notice that every place they go is just at the vicinity of Balintawak. So now, my stand or what is my judgment regarding this topic is, for me, the dates and places where the cry of rebellion happened is not as much as important for me. Because what's really important is what Andres Bonifacio and other Katipunans did at that time. For they have encouraged Filipinos at that time to have unity, to have a decision to rebel against the colonizers. Because of that, they have changed the way Filipinos live their lives. The hunger for freedom that they long for a long time. And because of the cry of rebellion, they have achieved their longing, which is to have a freedom. And yes, exact dates and place is also important. But if I were to choose, I choose not to choose. And just appreciate or give respect for what our Katipuneros did at that time. Thank you.
Lalaban tayo! Oo! Punitin ang sedula!
Itaas ninyo ang inyong mga sedula! Punitin!